And that jarring cacophony tells you you're back with the Power of Three podcast, Scotland's Doctor Who podcast without portfolio, as Dave Steele likes to tell us. Dave Steele coming to us live from Scotland today, not from Wales. I'm Kenny Smith, and I've also got Stevie Day with me as well, who's also in Scotland, not in Wales, home of Doctor Who for 20 years, which is one of the reasons why we're here today to talk to you lot once more, as we are going to be discussing the most recent episode of Doctor Who Confidential Unleashed Work Experience, and also the talk of the new Doctor Who cartoon. And given that we're always quite animated anyway on this podcast, it seems an opportune moment to bring these two things together. Hello, boys. How are we?
Hello. I was trying to think of something witty to say about Wales and Cardiff and Doctor Who as an introduction, and I realised I was probably going to end up sounding awfully racist and condescending, so I decided not to put on an accent other than the one I already wear, and not insult any of my Welsh friends, which...
Yakida.
Yeah, they won't be listening, but I don't want to insult them.
It's funny that you said hello, boys, because obviously Dr. John is unable to join us this evening. Hopefully he'll be listening in. Hello, yes. Everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us.
Yep, bravo to Dr. John, who sadly couldn't join us. He did message just before we started recording, but because it's always quite an uplifting experience when he's here. But yeah,
I always find that what I like about Johnny, he provides such good support.
He does. And
the way he does it's just hardwired into my, almost underwired into my DNA.
Yep. And he never brings any padding either.
No, he gets to the point. Doesn't mess about.
I sometimes feel that he reins the three of us back in sometimes, just with his quiet wisdom. Yes. I'm not saying that any of us, not pointing anyone in particular, can go off on one. Kenny, Dave, me. But John does tend to pull us back in.
That's very true, because whenever there's a storm in a D cup, then John's the one to sort things out. So, yes, that's right.
Oh dear.
Anyway, shall we move on to Doctor Who matters and such like? So, we've all now seen Confidentially Unleashed Work Experience, and it was an hour long, and it was made in Wales, and
it was better than that. It's funny. Friend of the show, Will Brooks, had messaged me asking me if I'd seen it yet, and he was quite disparaging. So I was sort of it's very tactful, isn't it?
Yes.
It was a very tactful programme. Obviously, very, very carefully curated about what was said, what was shown, who appeared and who didn't appear, and such like. I guess there must have been some availability issues because, the 12th Doctor wasn't particularly represented very well for long. And it was obviously weighted towards the Russell T Davies sort of eras. But it was interesting. It was if I wasn't so unsure and pessimistic about the state of things with the programme at the moment, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to see so many faces there. Lovely to see David Tennant popping up. Jodie was there, and some good guests. I mean, getting Karen Gillan back, I think that's a bit of a coup.
That was brilliant. I mean, obviously it's made in a shoestring in availability because they weren't there. It was all Zoomed. But, great to see. But I also felt, though, just what you said, who was missing? I mean, you wiped out Clara in one fell swoop. The 12th Doctor more or less ignored. However, and let's not be controversial, there is somebody who is not allowed in Doctor Who anymore, who has been expunged.
Yes.
From those things, but they got him in there. Captain Jack, we had clip.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I must have blinked and missed that bit. I was sort of very amused at the shot of Stefan and Russell standing, quite near Torchwood Tower, as I always call it. that's at the spot where DT and Freema stood at the end of Last of the Time Lords. And of course the whole point of that scene was they're watching Captain Jack going back into Torchwood, and he drops that line about the face of Bo, and we all start bawling for the third time that night. And I just sort of thought, you're standing there reenacting this scene, but you're not going to show any clips or any interview material with this actor who the characters you're sort of copying were sort of reacting to. I thought that was a bit... Torchwood and Sarah Jane barely got mentioned in the whole thing, which I think was really surprising, because terrifying to think how long ago it was that the Sarah Jane Adventures finished. But Torchwood was massive. I remember my interest and excitement for Torchwood the first couple of years it was on was equal to my interest in Doctor Who. So it was very surprising that it didn't get mentioned. But then, of course, as you're alluding to, I personally think the way that John Barrowman's been treated is pretty shocking. And it was just, I suppose, further salt in the wound as far as that goes, that they didn't show him and didn't mention him. He was such a huge part of the success of the first series.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's still on there, an iPlayer. He's not been expunged completely, but we don't talk about John. There must be a song in there somewhere.
I'm sure he'd be there to sing it himself. Yeah, I think it was an interesting mix of content and clips, and interesting to see them acknowledging the Eccleston era and Russell saying nice things about Chris, which is good, because that's always pleasing to hear, given that we know there's a public fallout between them.
Well, I think that Russell's very... He used to talk about duty of care and stuff like that, about some of the failures of the way Matthew Waterhouse was treated back in the day, for example. And Russell's going to be professional in that regard. He's not going to gossip publicly about I think he deserves a bit of credit for that. I think I don't think it does anyone any favours when people sort of share their dirty laundry in public, and we've all heard the goss, we've all heard what's supposed to have happened, etc. Will it ever be made public? I don't know, but I mean, it would have been... I don't think Russell and Mr. Eccleston are ever going to be reconciled, unless Billy's able to kind of, sort out some peace deal or something. But it was, I mean, even in the DWM anniversary special, for the Ninth Doctor, they were all very positive about Eccleston. They're not going to be unprofessional.
No.
Definitely not. We don't want that.
I felt it was a very professional show. I mean, it's something that can just be slotted in, especially to America, and nobody's going to know the difference. I quite like the fact that we had Kenny, you've probably seen them all, but there was lots of stuff that obviously came out of DVD extras and stuff that you'd have to search through your discs for to find. It was quite nice to see them just kind of spilling out, as if they'd accidentally been discovered and put about. So it was really nice to see that kind of thing. I'm surprised that the show has got its own wiki entry, but there you go.
Yeah,
I didn't realise that wiki would go all the way to Unleashed work experience, and that's my trademark, isn't it? I invented that.
You did invent that, so yeah, we've got to pay you 1 pence every time we say it from the end of this episode onwards.
Okay.
But no, the thing that I found very interesting when watching this was seeing all the clips from Doctor Who Confidential and reminding me how much I loved that, because that was definitely a more technical program to my mind, because it's telling you how things happen and why, and it was a lot more interview centric. And with obviously my former profession as a journalist, that's the sort of thing that I like. I'm a Doctor Who fan. I like to know how things happen and why. Whereas I find that the new incarnation of the show is definitely a lot more, shall we say, almost more like Totally Doctor Who, where you get the guy going work experience.
I don't really agree, to be honest. I think it's still doing the same thing. It's showing you how stuff's done, and it's showing you someone getting the practical hands-on work experience of doing it. And this program is obviously still going to be aimed at the younger audience. I think you've been a bit harsh on it that way, to be honest. It's got the access and it's got that behind the scenes stuff. And I think getting him to actually, because as we've said in the past, in the olden days, when Confidential was up first on, back in the first few years of the show's existence, there wasn't an on-camera presenter. It was voiceovers. So I think it's an improvement having someone on who can actually, this is how we would do this is how we do it. I think that's a much better way of just sort of, because they didn't really do that so much nowadays. They would maybe get an interview with Danny Hargreaves and he would say, right, if there's going to be an explosion now, then it'd be an explosion. But I think it works much better actually having someone demonstrating to the audience how a job is done. I think that's, we kid on about it being work experience, but I think it's genuinely it's one of the best parts of the programme as far as the BBC's function to educate and entertain.
Yeah, I find it irritating because for me, I want the cold hard facts. This is my journalist head going on. I don't want cult of personality. I don't want to know his opinion. I want to know facts.
But it isn't. You're getting the slightest. No, but you're getting the facts, though.
I'm getting opinions
you're
as well.
The facts, and
I don't want his opinions.
You might find the presenter irritating, but he's there to do a job, and I think he does it very well. He gets across very well what's involved in each sort of department he's been involved in. I haven't been irritated. So certain aspects of his presentation style, I'm not too fond of, but I think he does that exceptionally well. We're not going to agree on this, obviously, but I think you've been a bit too harsh on it because it's, you might want just the cold hard facts, but not everyone is going to want that. Remember, so many people that they've interviewed or he's done the work experience stuff with were younger people who watched Confidential or watched the programme and thought, oh, this makes me want to work in television. And him giving the practical demonstration of how stuff goes on is a great way of engaging the audience and making the audience think that's maybe something I could do. I think he's sorry.
I skim through them now. I'm just so disengaged. Like, who wants to see him working in the food truck? I mean, really?
It's harmless.
You might as well just go and show, here's a bloke in a kitchen. Here's a guy sort of making mashed potatoes in your local Morrison's.
Yeah, but for me. Like, when was that? I don't even remember that one.
That was episode 3, I think it was. No, it was episode 4. It was the one with the Ruby-centric one.
Right, okay. I don't remember that bit. But it didn't certainly upset me. Well, who's to say it wouldn't spark someone having an interest in catering? You can't dismiss it like that. Just I get that you don't like it, but it's I think you're being really harsh. I think there's a lot more to criticise about the programme than that aspect of it. I think that's one of the best bits.
Well, I don't think we should gloss over the catering, because having been on a few film sets, I have to say sometimes the best part of the job is catering.
Tell us the film sets you've been on, Stevie.
What film sets? I was on Braveheart and I was on Hamish Macbeth, and I have never eaten so well. To sit down with Philida Law to have a wee fish and chips, that was quite an amazing experience.
I've never seen Braveheart. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. It's a movie.
It's a film that someone made once. I mean, what I thought was quite good about this programme we got the other day. I mean, it was they hadn't really run about the time of the actual anniversary. They didn't do too much to, because obviously the new series was starting. They didn't want to overshadow that. There wasn't too much said about the actual 20th anniversary, so it was nice to kind of get this. It felt a little belated maybe, but it was really good that it even happened, given that we're all in this sort of state of what's actually going on at the moment.
Yeah, it was interesting that he had Billy talking and sort of just dropping her hints, and that was one bit I thought when he sort of said Billy's hitting. I thought there was maybe one slight sort of moment, but I thought, well, you could be just talking about the big finish stuff. I didn't really get the sense that she was dropping hints about coming back to the TV show in any capacity at all, really.
I think that was creating the news rather than researching it personally.
Reading too much, you think?
Yeah, it fitted into the narrative. I enjoyed it as a programme, a nice recap of 20 years, and I think the first series was a bit rough and ready. I kind of more enjoyed the second series. I don't mind him as a presenter. I do get you, Kenny, though, because I loved just Confidential. I loved information, but that's just a style. I suppose we're lucky to have it, because we didn't have anything through can't remember when Confidential stopped. When did we lose it?
I think it was during
Matt. Yes, season 2 of Matt, and then we got the Doctor Who fan show with Crystal D.
which I don't think I ever watched at all. But I would say one thing: I think this Stefan's much more agreeable a presenter than Crystal D.
I think we missed so much maybe of Capaldi stuff that we could have got a bit more of an idea behind if the money had been there for it. I mean, I can't remember when it all came about, but they were talking about how many shows were all running at once.
Yes.
I do remember Russell being interviewed at the time, pinching money from one show to put into another show, and then pinching money from that to put into this, and massaging the figures so he could run, what was it? Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane, and there was something else, wasn't there?
It was Confidential.
All at once.
Plus the Torchwood spin-off and the Sarah Jane, so that's 7.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that, but I mean, the money is so tight on these things, and we have missed out. I'm glad we had it. I know it's not to everyone's taste, and I know I've maybe taken the mickey out of it a wee bit, but it's been nice, and it will be nice in the future to have at least that stuff in the background there that we can go back and look at.
I mean, I think a lot of my sort of, I've certainly joined imitating the mickey out of it, and I think part of that is just a general dissatisfaction with a lot of the way the whole thing's gone, and it's obviously going to spill over. I mean, one thing I thought was really good was because there was no Confidential when Jodie was the Doctor, or when it was nice to see her and Mandip sort of talking, because I had no real sense of what they're like as people, because we didn't get Confidential or anything like. There wasn't much in the way of DVD bonus features when. I still haven't bought Jodie's second series in DVD. I keep meaning to sort that out. We didn't get. You got back in the day. You got a real good sense of the fun that David Tennant's crew and Matt Smith's crew were having, and you didn't really get that because Chris Chibnall seemed to operate much more of a sort of closed shop sort of thing. We didn't get as much behind the scenes material. There wasn't even the same amount of publicity photographs that a friend of the show, Will Brooks, told us how they had to beg at times practically for publicity images of Jodie to use in merchandise. They weren't even sure if they were going to be able to feature it at points. But it was really nice to see them just having a little blether and a little chat, and how nice they seemed. It was great. It was like, wow, I wish we'd had Confidential properly when that was going on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but available now at www.bigfinish.com/vortex. There's issue 196, which I'm holding up here for the benefit of our YouTube viewers. And
good.
This has got some lovely chat with Chris Chibnall in it. I got a great interview with him where he's talking about it all and just how much fun it was to work with Jodie and Mandip, and the fact that in studio the producer Noga Flation has said that you really have to tell them to shush because they just chat so much because they're such great mates. And I think that's wonderful to hear. Yeah. And that will really come across when we get to hear the audios, which are only a few weeks away.
It was really nice the way that Jodie and Mandip were sort of talking about they still speak to each other every day. That was really quite sweet. I'm hoping I'll get a physical copy of that Vortex when my copy of the first CD arrives, or
if not,
it'll be the next
spare one here, Dave. You can have it.
We'll probably get it in the shop. We should probably talk about how bad the coverage was of the 12th Doctor era in this. Like, I mean, they spent more time on, with no disrespect because I love Bill, they spent more time on Nardole and Bill than as Stevie said, practically no mention of Clara at all. No. And that was bizarre. And I hate, with no disrespect, Pearl didn't really contribute an awful lot of very much of interest. It was very generic sort of comments. Oh, it was a bit crazy. It was a bit cold that one time. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I was sort of found myself going, right, come on. They could have asked her a few more specific leading questions to get some better answers there, surely.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I was, again, as well known, I am a fan of Lord Capaldi of Glasgow, and I was disappointed by that. You thought there wasn't even a huge amount from Stephen about it, or Stephen Moffat, I should say. No. Obviously, there was the nice stuff about he was auditioning just Capaldi, and they didn't tell him that he was the only one auditioning, which I thought was a nice little factoid. But again, there wasn't a huge amount as possibly we would have hoped. I mean, whether it's Peter still distancing himself from the show for now, I don't know.
Or maybe he just wasn't available when they were doing the Zoom calls with everyone else. I mean, it could just be. It's a pity. It would have been really nice. It would have been really nice to see him I mean, he's kind of doing the promo rounds, because he's got this new record out, and I've got the episode of the Word in Your Ear podcast downloaded that he was on.
Yeah.
I haven't got round to listening because I've got such a backlog of other stuff. They spent more time talking about that blooming lighthouse than they'd talking about Peter Capaldi's Doctor. What the hell are they thinking? It would have been nice, and it was really nice just to see Pearl Mackie, because incredible. I think it was 8 years ago that series was on.
Wow.
And I remember one of my main memories that year was just how excited it was and how pleased I was when she popped up in the trailer for Twice Upon a Time, because it was like, she'd gone, but oh gosh, she's back already, brilliant, which kind of backs up what I was saying about Jodie's appearance the other week just being special because she was more recent.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. But now, well, I really did enjoy the show. I'm not going to deny that I enjoyed the special, despite my issues with individual weekly episodes. But we do have one elephant in the room which we need to discuss.
What's that then?
Stephen Moffat, Chris Chibnall, and Russell T Davies. They talk about Doctor Who fans. Whovians. Stop effing saying it. It's fans, not Whovians. Stop saying it. Stop giving this word credence, because it's not a word.
It's a subset. Branding, isn't it?
It's so annoying, because, as I like to point out, all Whovians are Doctor Who fans, but not all Doctor Who fans are Whovians.
They're just towing the party line, though, aren't they? I mean, it's so much. It's the branding.
Don't say it. Just say fan.
I know, it's the branding, though, isn't it? It's all because, let's be honest, it's probably the Whovians that are the only people that are left watching it. So they've got to just sell it to them, haven't they?
Yeah. You've got to think back to Jerry Anderson and his interview was it more than 30 years in the TARDIS, or 30 years in the TARDIS, where he talked. I always think of this when they say Whovian, and he's talking to his son about all these things that they've got. What have they got in their house? Thunderbird 2, Thunderbird 1, no police boxes, Daleks, because you are a Doctor Who fan. That's what we are. And it sounds very pedantic, and I know we talk about the Whoniverse and everything else. I don't mind that. I think we're fighting a losing battle.
Never give up. Never give in.
Surrender.
Fight till they're all dead.
Different franchise.
Don't want people to die, Kenneth. Come on.
Well, okay, we'll fight till they've all admitted that we're right and they are wrong, because Whovian is not the correct term for every fan.
It's Oh no, I'm not even going to argue.
No,
it's not worth my breath.
No, it's not.
It's not worth my breath.
But all in all, I thought it was a great wee show. A lovely wee surprise when it was announced, because I didn't expect it.
Yeah, we don't know where everything's going, and I honestly thought it was a wee bit of a tribute to the last 20 years, and potentially a wee bit of a goodbye in a holding circle, holding pattern. That's how I viewed it.
Yeah.
For some reason, I felt a wee bit sad at the end of it. I'm not quite sure why. It wasn't that it was built like that, but that was my kind of thoughts. That's potentially what we're looking at.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned there the future Dave and Stevie.
The future Dave. Future Dave. Future Stevie.
Future Dave and future Stevie. That's a DC comic just waiting to happen, isn't it?
It certainly is, where you both wear silver jumpsuits with boots and things that match, and big belts.
Okay, right, if you say so.
Okay.
Oh, that's the way I'm imagining it.
Just like in the making for the YouTube viewers.
Absolutely. And if anybody listening wants to design outfits for Stevie and Dave, please draw them and then email them to the earth2podcast@gmail.com, and Peter will pass them on.
Peter will print them out and sit and pass them on to us. Won't you, Peter? Hi, Peter, if you're listening.
And of course, we'll share them on the socials.
I'm going to say hello as well. I want to say hello to Shag Matthews, if he's listening, because I'm looking off the current as we record. I'm the guest on his latest episode of Just the Society in the 90s, part of the JSA Presents on the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Delighted to have been asked to take part. And that episode came out yesterday as we record, and it was glorious. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening to the sound of my own voice for nearly 2 hours.
2 hours and 6 minutes, Dave.
But half an hour of that is I'm not on at all. So, but listeners, go and check that out. Go and listen to Shag's a really good positive member of the fan community. So go and check out his work. You'll enjoy him. And of course, he's recently appeared on this show, so you should know him by now already.
Yes, but
anyway.
Of course, Dave, you should maybe perhaps reveal your surprise at that.
Yeah, because they hadn't told me it was happening, so it was a delight. It was cool, and I'm glad they're going to do all of the Chris Boucher novels, because that'd be quite interesting.
So let's dig out the Russell Fruitometer, as in Gary Russell, not Russell T Davies. And so how did we rate Doctor Who Confidentially Unleashed Work Experience, the 20 years special?
I'll give it a 4 because I enjoyed it, but content-wise, you could have done more, had more. So content-wise, I give it a 2.
Yeah, I give it a 4 as well, because I did enjoy it, and obviously the practicalities. I mean, Paul McGann wasn't in it either. There was not a single mention of Sir John Hurt. Never mind the 12th Doctor barely getting mentioned. So I guess availability and stuff had a big part of it. But I really enjoyed it. It was. I'm glad it existed, and it was nice. It made me feel very nostalgic for the first few years when the programme came back and everything was doing so well. So I'm giving it a 4, a solid 4.
And I'm going to follow you, Dave and Stevie. I'm going to be like the people who did 21 Seconds to Go. I'm going to be a So Solid Crew and make it also a 4. It could have been higher if, as you say, it had some involvement from Lord Capaldi. But yeah, it was entertaining. It did what it needed to do. Reminded us of how great Doctor Who was and how great Doctor Who can be. So that's what we like. Anyway, let's go back to where I was recently, talking about the future. Doctor Who is an animation. Now, that was a bit of a surprise, particularly for CBeebies.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not to pour cynicism on it, but I was reminded of, I remember in the last live-action full-length Star Trek movie came out from Paramount, and that opening weekend, they announced, yep, and we're going to do another one, and we're still waiting. So it was almost like a sense of bravado on Paramount's sort of part when they announced that they were going to make another film, and the film didn't do as well as they hoped, so they haven't made another film. And I just sort of wonder, is this publicity for the sake of it, talking about a cartoon series just to give the sense that they're still thinking about it, they're still working on it, or maybe they are actually going to do one? I don't know. I was a bit skeptical.
Stevie?
I wasn't quite sure. I wasn't quite sure what it was aimed at, really. I mean, I can see something like that working, maybe, but it surprised me. It wasn't an announcement I was expecting. What is the age of CBeebies? I'm a wee bit past parenthood at the moment, but
That is up to the age of about 5, 6.
yeah.
And then it goes into CBBC.
Yeah, I understand CBBC completely. I'm not sure how it all works with CBeebies in that case. I would say if you're going to do anything, put it up a level. In fact, if you want to do anything, I'm trying to desperately remember the name of the show, Star Trek Prodigy. It's well worth doing. It was a Nickelodeon Paramount thing, but actually it's in some ways better than Voyager and everything else put together, because you've got those characters that you loved, bundle them in with some kids, works really well. And I can again see that working for that 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old. I'm not sure about CBeebies.
Yeah.
Fluffy Daleks.
Yeah, I mean,
Putting you to sleep. Dug-a-doo singing you in the night garden. I'm not sure.
I can't imagine the body count or I can't imagine the Robert Holmes sort of approach to Doctor Who working very well in an animated series for the under 5s. It baffles me. I genuinely don't think it'll happen. Colour me surprised. Like, if we're back here in a year's time because we've binged the first 10 episodes because I went up on iPlayer, then fine. But I don't know. I mean, someone suggested that, remember they did the sort of Mr. Men versions of all the Doctors?
Yep.
That'd be a good way to do it, and I think that's good. I think that'd be fun. I mean, obviously, I'm not the target audience by any stretch, so it's a fascinating thing to think about. But I'm supremely cynical. I don't think it'll happen. I think it's noise to kind of try and give the impression. The fact that they even don't have an animation studio to make it, they're saying they want to do it. They're looking for a studio. I'm unconvinced.
Well, wait a minute. There's 3 of us. At least 3 of us can draw.
Stevie, you can doodle.
We can doodle. So, but you know, I more see it as I mean, you could do a lovely piss take of it, you know. It's kind of, oh, hello, here comes a Zygon. What's it doing to your mother? Oh, seems to be turning into your mother. Now there's two mums. Oh, what's happened to your original mum? Oh, she's linked up to a machine. Good night, children.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of, like, unless it's like, you know, I've been wondering recently about, you know,
I've got a couple of thoughts on it, because I was thinking, if you're going for the CBeebies audience, are they stripping it right back to basically build an audience for the future, where you're getting in with people when they're younger, so therefore when they get a bit older, they'll have that future nostalgia, if that makes sense. It's a memory of the future almost.
I'm not
Dua
sure.
Lipa.
As a 5-year-old, my 5-year-old daughter watching Matt Smith and falling in love with that concept and being scared and being sad, that's what you do with a 5 and 6-year-old.
Yep.
I don't think you want Daleks are the masters of bath time. You know, what was Doctor Who there for? Initially, at that age and above, and worked on so many levels. That's, to my mind, what you want to concentrate on. Yeah, sure. Get a studio to produce lovely little plush Daleks that you can sell and make money and plough into the main show. Sure.
Leave that to Alger. He can do that.
Well, there you go. Maybe we should talk to Al. Maybe we should have a little stop motion animation thing going here. Sort of Robot Chicken with Daleks.
My other thought was, in terms of getting a doctor, who would you use? Because I'd imagine you probably want to go for David Tennant, given that he's the one who's still super popular. And would they, if they didn't use him, would they do what they did with the likes of the Clone Wars and go for a sound-alike actor, given that there's a few decent impressionists out there?
I don't think he'd let them. I mean, if there was a chance of him doing another bit of Doctor, he'd be right in there, I think. I mean, where do you stop? Do you bring in Tom? Who's going to remember? It has to be someone charismatic.
It would have to be, I think it'd have to be a new Doctor, or just some version, you know, almost like a Peter Cushing type version that we've never. That's. I'm feeling more.
Narrates.
Yeah, that would work. The Big Finish not done that already. My feeling, the more and more it goes on, when you line them all up now, it's like the blooming cover of Sergeant Pepper. There's that many Doctors now. I think my feeling is just that it needs a reboot. It needs to be started again from scratch. It needs to be stripped back to the bare bones. It just needs to start again. We need, you know, with respect to all the history and stuff. And I think if they're going to do that, you know, they're not going to have continuity references in a cartoon for 4-year-olds. Do you know what I mean? It would have to be like the absolute. It should go back to basics. It should be Magic Grandad with the police box, either with his grandkids or you know, or you know, that's the thing as well. They'll have to have the audience identification. I mean, I don't know. It's the more you think about it, it's got to be treated in the same way that, or thought about or considered in the same way that, you know, if you're making the normal series. And it's just like, I just don't think Doctor Who is designed for that young audience. You know, Doctor Who as we know it, but it would have to be completely divorced from everything else. It would have to be its own thing. It could use elements that we're all used to, but it couldn't be part of continuity. And DT would be fine for it, you know. A cartoon version of, you know, with his silhouette, the stripy or checked suit and the long coat, you know, with spiky hair, perfect. I've got you know, everyone knows my opinion. They should just blooming kept him, and he can, you know, nailed him down for a couple of years and just done it. And I'm so weary of the whole thing now. I'm so disappointed at the way the whole thing's played out over the last couple of years. I just can't get excited about the possibility of an animated series, because it's a step further away from what I think Doctor Who needs, you know.
I think in terms of ideas, I mean, you could take a police box and have someone wandering about. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. Stretching it a little bit, look at Mr. Ben. We all remember Mr. Ben, don't we?
Yeah.
So basically, Mr. Ben is the precursor to Quantum Leap, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So
when am I going to start my Quantum Leap podcast? That's what I want to know. Anyway,
love Quantum Leap.
I'll read it.
But you know, Mr. Ben, whatever things we watched as children, which we can all relate back to, it's the same kind of fantasy thing. It's just set in a different Whoniverse, if you like. So yeah, if you want to use the shapes, if you want to use a TARDIS, bring in John Colshaw and have him do all the Doctors. Best of luck to them. And if they want to pay me money just to doodle about, I'll do that.
Well, you can do that if you like, Stevie.
Is that not Tug-a-Doo?
Oh, very good. So there we go. We've had our thoughts on 20 years of the return of Doctor Who and, of course, Doctor Who animated. So I think we should play out with a tune, because I was thinking of one that would actually celebrate the original spin-off show, because I don't know if either of you are fans of Tina Turner, because many moons ago she did a song called Confidential.
Perfect.
I bow down before.
Joanna and I used to, Joanna Manning, Freudian slip, Joanna Floyd, friend of the show who's appeared a couple of times, we always used to laugh at a line from a song by the Killers. Watched it, breaking my back just to know your name, 17 tracks. I know this. Somebody told me, because there's a line in that when he says it's not confidential, and we always used to go, it's not confidential. No, but the Tina Turner one, that's funnier. That's great.
So I suppose it's now time for us to make our farewells and go.
Yes, probably. Goodbye, folks. Check out the Earth 2 podcast every Thursday, etc., etc. When's Pieces of Eighth coming back, Kenny?
I'm waiting on Matt Michael to be able to finish off something, because we've not been able to get our schedules to match up. He was free last week when I wasn't, so it will be very soon we'll be getting that. So don't worry.
Good.
We shall be back very soon. So thank you, Dave.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you, Stevie.
An absolute pleasure.
And hello to Tina Turner.
You don't need to give me reasons. I understand. Some things are best kept secret, and you've done all you can. I want no recompense, just as much as you can give of yourself, if that makes sense.